important research going on at the UH Cancer Center. Good morning, Billy.
Good morning, Lacey. Thank you very much. You know, for the past 50 years, the UH Cancer Center has been on the forefront, on the front lines on the war on cancer. And for the last 20 years working here, Joe Ramos has been working hard to help all of us feel better, try to research about cancer. And you're now the interim director for the UH Cancer Center.
Yes, that's right, as of just the last week.
You must be proud. 50 years.
Yeah, 50 years. We started as a small unit up in the Manoa, in the PBRC there. And now we're here at Kaka'ako. We have 300 people in this building, 300 amazing staff and faculty. I can't speak more positively about them, sorry, tripping over my tongue with enthusiasm for the faculty and staff here. And then we have about 200 additional folks that we work with in the hospitals, with our partners to do our clinical trials work, and we have other faculty that we work with across the university.
I know we've got such a short time, but give me some of the highlights of the UH Cancer Center.
Yeah, so what the Cancer Center is all about, so we've had NCI designation now for the last 25 years, and NCI designation really is all about the highest quality research for your community. And so we're very much a community-facing cancer center. And so we have, the Cancer Center is broken into a couple of different programs. So we have our population sciences, and we have, on part of that is we want to make sure we understand what causes cancer in the islands. So what are the things in the environment, and how do those environmental factors interact with the genetics of the people of Hawaii to cause cancers? Because we have some cancers here that are unusually high incidence, and we need to figure that out. Once we understand that better, then we have our prevention folks who try and help make sure that everyone is educated about this, and we have programs in place that are able to help people prevent themselves from getting cancer, to exercise more, to avoid some of the factors in the environment, and to know whether or not they might be at higher risk. Unfortunately, we can't prevent all cancers. We still have about 7,000 a year in the islands, and about 2,000 people will die from cancers. So we have to have in place clinical trials. That's really the cutting edge, the newest types of therapeutics. So that's another major important role for the Cancer Center here, is to bring clinical trials in. We have some that we develop ourselves to help patients in the islands do better with their cancers. And then finally, we can't treat all cancers right now, so that we need to be developing the therapies of tomorrow. And that's really what our cancer biology program is all about, the discovery researchers. They want to understand what the mechanisms that drive cancers are, and then we go in and try and target those mechanisms to stop the cancer, or we use those mechanisms to better understand how to diagnose the cancers earlier, so that we can make sure that we catch it at the earliest stage possible.
I know that celebration is become the wrong word to use, especially, you know, when we're talking, but it is 50 years. That's a milestone.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've grown a lot over that time. We've become much more engaged with the community just in the last 5 years. We have a lot of advisors from the community that take part in Cancer Center activities, and we really learn from them what we need to do better. And so it's really a back and forth between community and Cancer Center. We're one of the least siloed places you can be. We work with everybody who has an interest in reducing the burden of cancer in Hawaii, and that's what we're all about. We're looking forward to the next 50 years of continuing that mission.
Once again, Interim Director for the UH Cancer Center, Joe Ramos here, and it continues this work, and we'll continue to share as we go throughout the morning. We're going to take a break right now, but you're watching Sunrise on Hawaii News Now. We'll be right back.
Billy is live at the UH Cancer Center this morning in Kaka'ako. Good morning to you, Billy.
Thank you very much, Grace. Good morning to you. You know, understanding cancer and finding ways to prevent it, that's just some of the objectives of this ongoing 28-year study here at the UH Cancer Center.
215,000 Native Hawaiians, Japanese, African Americans, Caucasians, and Latinos have all been involved in the multi-ethnic cohort study. Over time, UH researchers have increased their ability to pinpoint risk factors for cancer.
We have been able to study the reasons for those differences, finding, for example, that smoking, increased lung cancer risk, but to a much greater extent in Native Hawaiians and African Americans, and a lower extent in Japanese Americans. So we're trying to understand that at a mechanistic level, molecular level.
They found differences among ethnic groups like Native Hawaiians, who have a high risk of breast, lung, and stomach cancer. Their findings have been published in more than 800 medical journals since the study began in 1993.
Understanding risk factors for cancer, diet, exercise, obviously smoking, and more genetics now, and obesity, And I think what's really interesting is that we are now coming to the point where we will be able to help people.
Ron Cambra, former Assistant Vice Chancellor for Undergraduate Education at University of Hawaii Manoa, was one of the original members of the study. It all started with filling out a questionnaire about 30 pages long.
The first couple of 3-4 years, it was blood tests. They would show up at my office and take blood samples. And then it was urine tests. And then I participated in a series of cognitive tests. And then I also, this is about 6-7 years ago, did an MRI, brain scan.
While the study is usually for the community as a whole, Cambra used the results to make changes on his own lifestyle.
2.5 years ago, after reading several of the studies, I discovered that I was quite heavy. One of the things that was discussed very clearly was the need to exercise and the need to check your diet. And from about 2.5 years ago, I've lost about 30 pounds. And I've kept it off. And a lot of it was because of what I read in the studies. You know, this is serious business.
These studies are results-based, using data over a wide range of people. That enables us to make informed decisions on our health and lifestyle.
It is a very powerful statement that, you know, this data is coming from our own people.
Want more information? This sounds interesting to you? Want to be part of the multi-ethnic cohort study? Get more information on the UH Cancer Center's website. We'll be back with more. You're watching Sunrise on Hawaii News Now.
Researchers here in Hawaii are advising the U.S. government what we should be eating in order to be healthier. Now, this also plays an important role in reducing one's risk of cancer. Billy B has more from the UH Cancer Center this morning. Billy?
All right, we're here in the kitchen. You're thinking kitchen at the University of Hawaii Cancer Center? Yes, there is one. We're talking a story with Dr. Carol Boucher, who is the associate professor here at the University of Hawaii Cancer Center. And you deal a lot with dietary. As a matter of fact, you deal with that on a national scale, correct?
Yes. I've been involved with the dietary guidelines for Americans. And what's really exciting, and I have to share this, is in two people were appointed to the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee from Hawaii. So myself and then Dr. Rachel Novotny, who's on the main campus.
There's only 20 people in the nation that help to advise the government on dietary guidelines, right?
Yes, 20 people, and 2 came from Hawaii.
That's crazy.
I mean, that's just, it is.
In your job, in doing studies and everything to try to help people, you know, with cancer lead a better life, dietary is obviously a part of that. How does that work with what you do?
Well, one of the things that we do quite a bit of is we've been involved with putting together what cluster of foods are best to be recommended. And then we call this a dietary pattern. And so we recommend these dietary patterns that we say foods to eat more of, foods to eat less of. Because we're always going to be eating those foods to eat less of, but we're trying to encourage people to eat less of them. And so the foods to eat more of are things such as fruits, vegetables, whole grains, dairy products, low-fat dairy products. And then to eat less of are things such as sugars, saturated fats. And so these dietary guidelines are available. Anyone can go online.
Okay, so once again, this is not only for people that are going through cancer. This is for everybody to follow to get them all healthier. Is there anything else that you want to tell everybody just real quickly here, about 30 seconds?
Well, I think one of the things that one of the biggest advices that I can think of, as we're going through the pandemic, when you think about what's something that I can do for myself during the pandemic, and that's the better you eat, the more healthy you'll be. And that we don't have any evidence that it will prevent you from getting COVID, but we do have evidence that if you eat well, you do have a better chance of coming out healthy. I mean, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So I can't stress enough the importance of following the dietary guidelines for Americans.
There you go. Doctor, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Real quickly here, just to let you know, even though we're here in the kitchen, they haven't used this since the pandemic started, but they continue to do their work. They continue to do studies and interviews with people via Zoom and other ways to make sure that we've got the latest information.
UH Cancer Center is celebrating its 50th anniversary. Researchers have been doing studies and using science to get results on how to improve health when it comes to cancer. Billy B has more on an ongoing project that specifically looks at populations in the Pacific.
Thank you very much. We're getting a chance to talk story with Dr. Kevin Castle with the University of Hawaii Cancer Center, and he's an associate professor here. We're talking about the cancer disparities amongst populations. Kevin, talk about that for a little bit.
Well, yeah, disparities, they exist in a lot of different forms. It's just really differences in either cancer rates or cancer death rates. So we look at disparities in a lot of different forms. Sometimes it's just based upon how close people are to healthcare facilities. It depends on age groups, and it can be by ethnicity as well. So we look at disparities and look at differences, not only the things that are making cancer rates bad for people, but also what makes cancer rates good for people. So that gives us clues about what to do to improve rates for others.
What's one of the benefits from your standpoint of having something like the University of Hawaii Cancer Center here in Honolulu?
Yeah, well, our population, our characteristics of our fauna and our marine culture, we have so many good things, so many different types of people, so many different cultures. It's such a melting pot. And we can see things that are good in certain cultures and things that are bad. We know about American food and American diet, but we also see the benefits of traditional foods and traditional diets. So that's one of the great things about being here.
How long have you been with UH Cancer Center?
More than 25 years now.
Tell me about one of the best things about working here.
Best things about working here, you can't be in a bad mood. You have to come outside, you look, and you have to be in a great mood because this is Hawaii.
Talk about, when we talk about disparities, is there disparities, or what are your findings when we're talking about Native Hawaiians specifically?
Well, Native Hawaiians have a lot of disparities in different areas, and there are differences in cancer rates that have improved. For instance, it was really poor rates for breast cancer, but that's improving. We see some lower rates for Native Hawaiian men. So what we do is we look at some of the aspects of culture and how can we introduce aspects of culture to improve those rates. So we have a program now where we actually get Native Hawaiian men to talk story, kuka kuka, and talk about screening and the benefits of screening, and then go on and get screened.
Okay, so and you also encourage that kuka kuka to happen.
Right. I'm there as a facilitator. I'm not Hawaiian, but I just try to make all the pieces fall into place and let the men do what they want to do. So we listen to the men, we listen to the topics that are important to them, and we let them, take the program the way it wants to go.
If somebody wants more information about the work that you're doing, where do they get that?
They get it off the website at, our uhcancercenter.org.
All right. And we got more for you. You're watching Sunrise on Hawaii News Now.
He's been showing us some of the important research that is going on at the UH Cancer Center. Billy.
Thank you very much, Grace. And some of the research that they're doing is connected to our culture here in the islands. As a matter of fact, we're talking to Erin Bantam, who is an associate professor, but also researcher here at the UH Cancer Center. Good morning.
Good morning, Billy. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for letting us be here. You have an interesting study that has hula and cancer in it. How did this all begin?
Well, so we know as researchers, we've been hearing the importance of exercise when people have been diagnosed with cancer. And my background is actually in social support, so cancer survivors supporting each other. And so we thought, what would happen if we married social support with hula? And we got a team together, including the Kumahula Te Moana Makolo here. And we've been running a few small studies so far, and we've been excited about it.
Have you had any results from this so far?
So far is what we're seeing. So we collected data that was both about our body and sort of our mind in terms of blood and also self-report data. And we've been finding that there is some benefits in terms of inflammation, markers of inflammation in the body when women are dancing hula here in the studies, as well as things like social functioning and vigor seem to be improved. But the biggest thing that we're excited about is that at the end of the 6-month study, the ladies came to us and said, we're not going to stop. So can you please find a place for us here because we're going to keep going.
All right, Erin Bantam with us. Once again, hula is healing, okay? As a matter of fact, let's show you. As a matter of fact, let's have the ladies dance for you right now here on Sunrise.
Whenever you're watching a hula girl dance, you gotta be careful, you're tempting romance. Now keep your eyes on the hips, the naughty hula hips. Keep your eyes on the hips. Remember she's telling a story too. Her hoop is swaying, but don't watch the beat. Concentrate on the swing, it doesn't mean a thing. Keep your eyes on the hand. And when she goes around the aisle swinging hips and tantalizing, keep her eye where they belong. And when her practical goes swishing in your head and don't go wishing that you would like to mow the lawn. That's beating but fooling no one. This conceding we're having such fun. We're too young to think we're over 90. What are you? Keep your eyes on the head. Whenever you're watching a hula girl dance, better be careful, you're tempting romance. Keep your eyes on the hips, the naughty hula hips. Keep your eyes on the head. Remember she's telling a story to you.
Trials are happening right here in Honolulu. In years past, you would have to travel to take part in this type of research, but it is happening at the UH Cancer Center. This morning, Billy V has more on that.
Thank you very much. Here at the University of Hawaii Cancer Center, we're getting a chance to talk to Dr. Jeffrey Berenberg. Doctor, thank you so much for spending some time with us. Tell me about, for those that are not familiar, what are clinical trials?
Okay. Clinical trials is a type of research that we do with patients, but we also do with people who are at risk for certain conditions. So clinical trial oftentimes will compare a standard therapy with a new therapy, a novel therapy. We do have trials where a standard therapy would be compared to another therapy plus a new agent or another therapy plus a placebo. But in the treatment type of trials or in symptom management trials, most of the time, the overwhelming majority of time, there's an active agent the patient is receiving.
Why are clinical trials important?
They're important because we want to kind of move the needle forward. In other words, we don't want to stay stagnant where we are. Treatments are pretty good, but we always want to improve the treatments. And we've participated in a number of treatment trials in the past that have actually changed the standard to move treatment forward.
What kind of clinical trials are you doing at this time here at the University of Hawaii Cancer Center?
We're doing a number of different types of trials. We do treatment trials, which is what people usually think about, it's a standard. We also do trials in symptom management. That is, if people have nausea or if they have neuropathy, nerve damage, we have trials for that. We do trials in screening. We have a very active, important trial that we're doing in conjunction with Queen's Hospital called the TMIS trial. The TMIS trial is comparing standard mammography with tomosynthesis, which is a 3D type of mammography. This trial we think is particularly important because the Native Hawaiian population in Hawaii has increased morbidity and mortality from breast cancer. And also the Micronesian population, many who are new migrants to Hawaii, are very much underscreened.
If you want to take part in clinical trials, we'll put the information on our website at hawaiinewsnow.com, where you can get all the information about what the clinical trials are about. And once again, we'd like to thank Dr. Jeffrey Berenberg for being with us and talking story. We'll be back with more. You're watching Sunrise on Hawaii News Now.